welcome to The Person Everyone Needs, and Merry Christmas. Today's episode is on Christmas Eve, and I am thrilled just to tell you, Merry Christmas. Jesus has come. Jesus is Lord of all, and so during the season, I hope you get all that you want. I hope Santa Claus brings you the things you've been waiting on, and I hope you get some time to yourself, time with your family, time to think, time to be thankful. Make this time the best ever. Well, speaking of the best time ever, my son is out of school now, and so I've asked him to do this podcast with me today on this special Christmas Eve podcast. Lukey, tell all the people hello.
Hi.
All right. Well, that's my firstborn, 10-year-old Luke, and he will be turning 11 next month. So, he's full of wisdom. He already knows everything. And it's an exciting time. So I want to ask you a few questions today as we talk about Christmas. We're talking specifically about Christmas, and then I'm going to end today with a couple of thoughts. But tell the people, what's your favorite part about Christmas?
My favorite part is that it's very rare that we get to hang out with some of the family that come. We get to go to all our relatives' house, and it's very rare we ever get to do that.
Whose house are you talking about?
Well, Jason, Uncle JR, we don't see them much. It's only Thanksgiving and Christmas. So Granny's house is usually just her, and if some of the Hoggarts come. Grandma, now Abby and Lance are starting to leave sometimes. Logan and Uncle Jeff aren't commonly there. So Bananas is always a packed household if I ever.
Always a packed house every single week, huh? Yeah. So what are your favorite things? You like the fact that you get to spend time with people that aren't always there. It's like a special time where you're going to see more people than usual. What are some of the things you look forward to now that you're getting a little bit older and you're starting to recognize that there are some normals? What are some things that we do that you like traditions, I guess?
I love the Christmas book that we do in our house. We always start by the end of November or the beginning of December. And
here's the $20 that I handed you to say that. All right, perfect.
On Christmas Eve, we would go to Grandma's house and we would have this big fire. And we'll roast s'mores.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we've talked a little bit about our favorite gifts, the things that we make normal. He mentioned the book. Every single year I try to read through a book. It's the same book each year. It's kind of like focusing on Advent, that Jesus is the focus of the Old Testament. And so we kind of go through several Old Testament stories and showing up different parts that are connected to the Jesus story, especially the Christmas story. And it takes us 25 days to go through it. So we see the main characters, God, Adam and Eve. It takes us through Noah and Abraham and Joseph and Moses and David. Anyway, it takes us through about 25 days, Rahab and Habakkuk, and then we get to what we're in right now, which is Zechariah and Elizabeth and John the Baptist's story and how they all connect to the great story of Jesus bringing what it is that we want most. Well, you've mentioned people, you've mentioned time, you mentioned the fire at Grandma and Grandpa's house. So there are certain things that are becoming traditions for you. Anything else that you think of in that realm?
I think it's a tradition that we get to go to all three houses, Grandma, Granny, and Nana's houses. I feel like that's a tradition. I also feel like our Christmas morning breakfast, Mommy always cooks us. It's usually a elf kind of breakfast, cinnamon rolls. I also love that. I think that's
What do you mean by elf? You mean elf like the Will Ferrell elf that eats the Pop-Tarts with the syrup on it?
Go all sugar elf.
All right, so Christmas begins with the all sugar breakfast, right? Does your grandma cook anything specific? Do you remember what she cooks usually at Christmas time? She always cooks enchiladas at Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, enchiladas, Mexican food. Do you remember what Granny cooks? We've all been trying to play a part here recently, and so we've been doing like barbecue. Fried turkey has been one. We've mixed it up a little bit. Mama's cinnamon rolls, and then Nana's. There's a new tradition the last couple of years. Do you know what kind of food Nana has on Christmas night? It's like party foods. Like, we're tired of eating the big stuff, so we eat like, candy and exactly. That's it. So anyway, okay, so the point of going down this little nostalgic ride with you, Luke, is it's hit me in the recent days that what you see as tradition it's just what we're doing. Like, you don't even know what you don't really understand what the word tradition is. Well, I had to explain to you what tradition is, and you're like, oh, yeah, so you mean like what we do. And I'm like, yeah, but somebody had to make that decision. Somebody had to decide. It was Granny's at lunch. It was Grandma and Grandpa's on Christmas Eve. Someone had to decide. Your mother had to decide what was going to be our special thing. The story that came with the cinnamon rolls was because our favorite date we ever had before we had kids was one time she made cinnamon rolls, and we ate cinnamon rolls and drank milk on the couch like for an entire day. We didn't turn our phones on. We watched movies together and enjoyed cinnamon rolls together, and it was a very special time. So it's just one of those things that we remembered. And then when you came along, it was like, hey, we want to maintain that with our whole family. And anyway, so that was kind of what started that. But what I've been thinking about is what you have decided to do becomes a tradition for somebody. So the way we're handling Christmas, when you wake up, when you grow up, you're going to look and say to yourself, like, oh, this is what Christmas is like. This is how Christmas is. But it's just because that's the way you grew up. And then one day, you're probably going to have a wife, and she's going to have maybe different traditions. And then you got to figure out how to meld those two traditions together to make a brand new family. And that means that you might have to cut out some things that our family is doing in order to make it right with her. Not all of them, of course. Right?
We're not gonna be together if I gotta cut them all out.
All right, you're probably going to change your tune in the next few years, but that's really sweet. I'm glad to have it on recording. But yeah, I mean, there's compromise that has to take place as you grow, because right now what you are experiencing is what you think is normal, but it's just normal for our family. It's not normal for every other family. Traditions get made by people, and that is what eventually becomes normal to those who have to be a part of those traditions. And then as you get older, a mature mindset is realizing that not everybody is like you, that there are people who have different traditions, different ways of doing things, and you're going to find that out a lot as you get older. I still find that out with your mom. I am finding out there are times that she just grew up very different than me, that our families are different. And so because of that, we have to have had some conversations to figure out, what who we're going to be as we move on, and how we're going to lead our three boys. And it's those conversations, those regular conversations, that makes the life that you see as normal, this normal life that you have, that we're constantly telling you is not normal, but it's normal to you. And that's the only thing you know.
Mainly, I think it's normal because it's the only life I've lived.
Exactly. And so on one hand, that's absolutely true. But as you get older, you realize that there's a lot of other worldviews out there. And so you'll be more empathetic to those things. But the world that we're trying to create is what is the world that is uniquely yours. So in closing, if you've got another thought, I'm going to let you say it. But in closing, the idea that I really wanted to say is, in your behavior, the way you talk to people, the way you treat them, in your daily walk, you are creating a tradition for somebody else. Every single one of you listening to this today, you are a leader, you're an influencer, you're someone who has relationships, and you have impact on other people. And so when you are kind, you create a safer place for other people to live. And when you are an unsafe person, you make things darker and more scary. You diminish hope for other people. Your influence on other people is directly related to how you treat them. How you tell them and how you treat them shows how you want to be treated also. And so you are creating a normal for someone else. Be a person whose tradition is to be kind, hopeful, joyful, And the kind of here's what I also know: you can have all the traditions you want in the world, but if you're a mean person, they're going to forget what you did. They're going to know who you are, because that's what people are. People are human beings before being human doings. Too often we want to think everything that we are is what we do, but we are who we are, or who we be, if you want to say it weird. That's right. You want to add anything else? All right. Well, let's say Merry Christmas.
What would you like this year? And Merry Christmas.
What would I like this year? Or who would the listener? I want a notebook for Christmas. I need another notebook. All right. That was Luke asking you, what do you want for Christmas? Peace on earth, goodwill to all men, joy to the world.
Physical things.
Physical things? Okay. If you would like a Tesla or a new Nintendo, go to Walmart. Because here's what I know would be the case. Those who realize how blessed they are with all the things that God has to give to them, those are the people that everyone needs. Merry Christmas to you from Luke and Webb. God bless you. We love you.